This is a classic example of gang stalking street theater, which is a pre-planned, publicly enacted skit designed to mock and humiliate a target. This occurs in front of my house. The video combines footage from 3 of my surveillance cameras. I used video editing software to digitally pan and zoom. I wasn't standing there with the video camera filming her. As you can already see, there is clearly something odd going on here. A casual observer would likely think either that this woman was under the influence or mentally or physically impaired. No one but myself or one of the gang stalkers would likely understand that she's actually imitating all the things I do when I go to the park to walk. I can actually tie many of the things she does here to specific instances where I was walking off by myself and did something like stop to watch wildlife, brush back my hair repeatedly from the wind, or reach up to touch a flower on a bush, when I immediately heard laughter and mocking voices from them. Right now, I'm showing you most of the 3.5-minute performance all the way through without interruption. Afterwards, I'll go back and explain more specifically what is going on. In the meanwhile, notice how she's obviously aware of the location of my cameras and is playing to them, although she seems to get it a little bit off. There's less than a minute left anyway, so stay tuned. That's not quite the whole thing, but you get the idea. Now I'll explain. I'm showing you a few pictures here of the nearby park where, at the time I filmed this video, I would usually go to walk. In order to understand how they're ridiculing me, I have to tell you more about myself and my habits than I would like, but that's what they count on, that the target will be too embarrassed to want anyone to see and understand their performance. What I think is far more embarrassing than my various odd but harmless idiosyncrasies, however, is the fact that there are so many adults participating in this adolescent bullying campaign against me, and who have nothing better to do than to follow me around and harass me. So here goes. First, notice how she walks awkwardly and with a limp. I have a spinal curvature and knee problems, both of which cause me to walk funny, and she is imitating this. It looks almost like she's drunk. This illustrates a common tactic of the gang stalkers, which is to recast everything the TI does in a negative light, portraying innocent activities and habits as moral failings. They call me a drunk all the time, even though I haven't had a single drop of alcohol in over 5 years. Notice how she keeps stopping and looking around, again as if she is drunk or something. When I walk around the perimeter of the park, sometimes I stop to look at interesting wildlife. For example, just a month before this, I had stopped to film this egret, and as usual, you can just hear one of them yelling something off in the distance. Next, notice how she keeps brushing back her hair. The Seaworn Park is an open peninsula, which tends to get very windy, so I'm often having to brush my long hair out of my face. There was one day in particular when there'd been a strong wind blowing from directly behind me, so I was having to brush away my hair constantly, and I could see and hear a whole crowd of them in the end parking lot, all watching me and laughing and yelling loudly. Of course, in their skit, they portray this as vanity, rather than me simply not wanting my hair blowing into my nose, eyes, and mouth. Here, she is primping, using the car window as a mirror. Sometimes the locking system of my car doesn't work properly, so I always double check that the doors are locked when leaving. Of course, she portrays this as another form of vanity, as if I'm looking in the windows to check out my reflection. The irony is that it is because of them that I have to be overcautious about my car being locked. Now she's reaching up and grabbing at the tree. One time, when the bushes on the PSENG border were in bloom, I reached up to touch one of the blossoms. Some noise made me look ahead towards the park entrance, and there were two cars stopped there with the people outside. One was aiming a camera at me with the longest telephoto lens I've ever seen. This is a nice example of them using props. It looks like she put powder or something similar on the sides of her hair. My hair gets very white above the ears if I don't color it frequently, and she is spoofing this. Also notice the white socks with the black pants and shoes. That's something one of my gang-stalking neighbors has ridiculed about me a couple of times. See the bra straps sticking out. Because of my spinal curvature and the way I'm built, I've always had a problem with that, which of course they ridicule. No doubt she stopped right next to my camera so I could get a good view. I'm not sure, but it looks here like she might have worn the long shirt so she could put padding underneath to ridicule my big butt. They call me a fat cow all the time. Next, you see her stopping a second time to tie her shoes. I used to get shin splints really bad from heel slippage, so I like to keep my laces nice and tight. On numerous occasions when I've stopped to retighten my shoes, they've accused me of leaning over because I want people to get a view down my shirt. Note that this is at least the second time they've performed this skit outside my house. Also note that, just before they started, there was some verbal harassment which caught my attention and got me looking at my cameras. In conclusion, I'd also like to point out how these street theater productions serve a third purpose, which is to show off to the target just how much they've been watching every little thing that the person does. This reinforces the victim's feeling that she has no privacy anywhere.